Hey guys, it's Ben Beyond Repair. I peaked around 500 LP. I'm one of the better Braum players in North America, and this is my guide for Braum. For leveling up your abilities, I recommend leveling up Q first while you're in the laning phase, but then switching to E as soon as you get out of the laning phase. Finish maxing E, then finish maxing Q, and then max W finally. For runes, I'm currently running Hail of Blades, which is a bit of an unusual setup, but I really think it has potential to be the best rune setup right now on Braum, especially with the items he's looking to build. Hail of Blades, Cheap Shot, Eyeball Collection, Treasure Hunter, Inspiration Secondary with Magical Footwear and Cosmic Insight, and then I take Ability Haste, 1 Armor and 1 Magic Resist, and we can swap the Armor and the Magic Resist around depending on the matchup and their team comp. So if they're double AD bot or their team is like 4 or 5 AD, I'll go to Armor. If their bot lane is double AP, I'll go to Magic Resist. But most of the time I stick with 1 Armor and 1 Magic Resist. Now these runes are tied into the items a little bit. So I feel like justifying the fact that we're taking Cosmic Insight here and why. So Cosmic Insight gives you 10 item haste, and for the items we're going to be going Radiant Virtue and Redemption, and we only have 2 options to kind of help with item haste, which is something that we really need in order to make Radiant and work well on Braum. The problem with Radiant is that if your ult comes up before Radiant comes up, what will end up happening is you've waited 90 seconds for Radiant's cooldown, and if your ult's under 90 seconds, all of a sudden your ult comes up. Radiant's got 10, let's say your ult's 80 seconds. Radiant comes up 10 seconds later, and you end up having to use your ult in that 10-second window while Radiant is still down. Now you have to wait until your ult comes back up to use Radiant. So now you've essentially put Radiant on a double cooldown. Radiant was on a 90-second cooldown, got 80 seconds through it, then you put your ult on a cooldown, and so you could end up waiting like 160 seconds in between using Radiant, which is really inefficient and bad. And so I feel like it's worth taking some sort of secondary rune to fix that problem from ever happening so you don't have to worry about it in game. One thing that you could do is you could take Cosmic Insight, and another thing that you can do is you can take Ingenious Hunter. I prefer taking Cosmic Insight because with the specific items that I build, which is Radiant into Redemption, rushing those 2 items and not going other items that have any ability haste, Cosmic Insight gives me the perfect amount of item haste to be able to not have that problem occur until I get level 16, and then you have 3 points in your ult. But usually the game never goes that long anyways. And it allows me to take Treasure Hunter, which is really great for accelerating the build because it's so important for me that I get Radiant and Redemption as soon as possible because I think those items are really strong. So this just allows me to take Treasure Hunter. Alternatively, if you wanted the ability to build other item options besides those things, you would want to take Ingenious Hunter instead. And then instead of Cosmic Insight, you could take Approach Velocity here in your runes. And then same thing with the Armor and the Magic Resist. So for items, as I said, I go Radiant Virtue into Redemption. And if I'm taking the first rune page that's only using Cosmic Insight, I have to build a situational items that don't give me any more ability haste. Otherwise, my ult will be a shorter cooldown and I'll end up putting Radiant in that double cooldown situation. So in a lot of cases, what my build ends up looking like is getting Radiant Virtue and Redemption, rushing those, sitting on Magical Footwear. It's okay to sit on Magical Footwear as Braum because really you want to take fights where the enemy's running into you anyways, and you're not really trying to chase people down. So you often don't really need that much movement speed on Braum anyways. After these 2 items, I usually finish my boots, and I usually don't go mobility boots since by this point, you know, these are kind of roaming boots and it's pretty late in the game to be picking those up and starting to roam. Braum's not a super strong roaming champion either, so it's not great. You can pick up swiftness boots if they've got a lot of slows on their team and you want to be able to like move around team fights quicker and get your passive on more people. Obviously Ninja Tabi is pretty good with Braum in general because of the synergy with his E. And so if you're playing against a lot of, auto attack reliant champions, plated steel caps is fine, or merc treads if you're against a lot of CC. And then these are some items, tank items, or support items that don't give you any ability haste. So again, they work with this first rune page. And that would be Mikhail's, Thornmail, Randuin's. Sunfire Aegis, Force of Nature, and Dead Man's Plate are tank items that don't give ability haste, but they're not really that good, and not really that good on Braum. So I usually pick between these three, and Mikhail's is good if they've got, hard CC, Ashel, things like that you can cleanse with it. Thornmail's great if you need anti-heal, and Randuin's is good if they've got multiple crit champions. And usually I'm pretty content building, a couple of those options first. Also, you can get Iron Elixir. I tend to buy Iron Elixir pretty early into the game, meaning that if I ever think the game is going to end within the next 3 minutes, I'll stop building whatever I'm building, because for 500 gold, this is more power. So almost every game you really should be getting Iron Elixir at some point. It's not something you need to wait until you're full build for. If you think the game's going to end in the next 3 minutes, whether you're going to win or lose, you get more value from 500 gold on the Elixir than you would from 500 gold on any other item, especially for a support. Now, if you're going to run the other rune page, it opens you up to more flexible build path, like I said. And so it enables you to build these items. Again, I'll release a longer video justifying some of this stuff, but I think Knight's Vow is actually very bad. And Zeke's is something that's not great on Braum, because Braum doesn't actually hard CC people as much as you think that he would, because it's you don't actually get your passive off that many times during a game, at least not as much as you think that you would. And the only other way is your ult. So Zeke's isn't that great on Braum, and the win rate and numbers support that as well. Knight's Vow is just a terrible item in general and needs like massive buffs. It's really just terrible. And so if you look at the numbers behind Knight's Vow, it's really just bad. And I know that a lot of people build these two items. It's just because, there are very few tank support items in the game. And so other than Mythics, you only have Knight's Vow and Zeke's, and so everyone builds them, but they're not actually all that good when you start taking a look at them, so I don't recommend that you build them. Really, the item that I'd want to get the most in here would be like Anathema's Chains or Vigilant Wardstone. But again, I don't really think that Anathema's Chains is better than Redemption. When you look at them, Anathema's Chains gives more health than Redemption, and it turns out math-wise that it allows Radiant to do more healing than Redemption would allow Radiant to do, even though Redemption has both health and healing and shielding power. It's missing so much health that Anathema's actually increases Radiant's healing more. However, the active on Redemption is just so much stronger than what Anathema's has, that Redemption ends up being pretty much generically better than Anathema's anyways. There are some games where if they have one really fed champion, it might have been nicer to be able to go Anathema's. But other than that, there aren't really any, you can't go Locket or even Shroud because you've already got Radiant as a mythic. So these are just some other tank items. There's nothing in here that I really want super bad. And that's why I'm okay sticking with the first rune page and taking this limitation in order to get the extra gold from Treasure Hunter in order to accelerate my build of Radiant Redemption. Really good synergy between these two items because they're both healing items and they both amplify each other. As I mentioned, right, Radiant's just Braum's strongest mythic. In fact, it's performing so well if you look across the board on many different support champions that it seems to be one of the best performing mythics just in general on supports right now. Even champions that you would think, like Nautilus, are much better with being able to CC more frequently. You'd think, oh, you go even Shroud on them. Turns out that even on those champions, Radiant's just performing much better. Redemption has nice synergy with it. Obviously, as I said, Redemption's got a great active on its own, but it gives both health and healing and shielding power. So both of those things are increasing the heal on Radiant. Finally, for summoner spells, I usually only run Ignite or Exhaust. And it really comes down to, you should check out my Who's the Beatdown video. If you feel like your team outscales and you just need survivability, or they have like a lot of assassins, Exhaust is just the best option. And then Ignite's going to be the best option if you need to win the game early. If you're playing with like a Draven, Lee Sin, LeBlanc, and your team gets outscaled and you have to get ahead early, you're going to need to play Ignite, and you're going to need to play aggressively. And if you want to outscale and just survive and win the game, then you're going to probably want Exhaust. The one thing I'll say about the way that I play the game, and something that really helped me improve, is I found that holding my abilities longer and really trying to get the best usage out of my abilities as possible was the key. So I, as a Braum one trick, had spent so many games playing the champion, I was very comfortable spamming the abilities on the champion just because I felt comfortable with it, right? And what I found was that in order to be a better player, it's not about just spamming and hitting as many abilities as possible. It's about holding Braum E for the best ability that you could possibly block. So when I go into loading screen or champion select, I'm constantly asking myself, what is the best thing that I could do with my E, and what is the best thing that I could do with my ult? And so if I go into a game and they have like an Ornn and a Misfortune, I'm going to tell myself, the best thing I can do with my ult this game is ult Misfortune when she ults to cancel it. And the best thing that I can do with my E this game is save it for when Ornn ults. And then when Ornn ults, I'll E and block his ult for my team, right? And then it just requires patience and breaking your bad habits of like spamming your E in a team fight to block a few auto attacks. And you wait for those situations to happen. The cool thing about it too is it teaches you how to play team fights better, because it tells you, people often ask, and it's kind of hard to give an answer, where do you look in a team fight? There's so much going on. Like, what should I be watching? What should I be doing? Just ask yourself how you can, like, what is the best possible way you could use your E or your ult or any of your abilities in that fight. And then just, if it revolves around waiting for an enemy champion to do something, which it usually does, especially for a disengaged champion like Braum, then you just watch MF for when she ults, and you watch Ornn for when he ults. And so your job during the team fight is to watch MF or watch Ornn or watch both. And there you know where you should be looking in a team fight, what you should be paying attention to. This is, you know, it makes the game a lot easier, but it's hard to do, especially if you have bad habits of just spamming your abilities. I should mention as well, for starting items on Braum, you should be going Steel Shoulder Guards, the one that gives AD. The Braum only has an AP ratio on his ult, so you don't get very much value out of the AP support item. They both give the same amount of health, all the same stats. The only difference is a little bit of AP or a little bit of AD, and at least Braum utilizes the AD in his auto attacks, so that one's better. And that's pretty much it. So I hope you guys liked the video. I have like no subscribers on YouTube, so if you would, please like the video and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys around with some more Braum content later.